And welcome in to Pressbox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of Pressbox at PressboxOnline.com. With me is my co-host every Monday night, and that is Ross Grimsley. Ross, how are you, my friend?
Everything's great, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And before we introduce our guests who really need no introduction, I just want to remind you that this edition of Pressbox Live is brought to you by our friends at C3 American Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get a brand new roof for just the cost of your insurance deductible. And as I say every Monday and Wednesday when I do these Zooms, if you own a home, you will get no greater expense than repairing your roof or fixing your roof or replacing your roof. And C3 America, they're the folks that do it best. All right. Joining us now, he's wearing a bright orange shirt, and you'd expect him to be wearing that, is Boog Powell. Boog, wave to the people in Baltimore and around the world.
Yes, sir.
Baltimore world.
All right. And also joining us is one of his best friends and the guy who used to wear number 24 for the Baltimore Orioles. Did a lot of games analyzing Oriole baseball over the last 12, 14 years. That's Rick Dempsey. Rick, how are you, my friend?
Fine, Stan, and I'm wearing a pink shirt, if that doesn't offend anybody.
Doesn't offend me at all.
And you're washed and buffed too.
And somehow we just lost Boog Powell. But I'm going to start with a question today, Rick, about Boog Powell. Boog left the Orioles after the 74 season. You didn't come to the Orioles until 76. You two are pretty damn good friends. How did you guys become friends?
I can remember the first day I met Boog Powell. He was warming up on the sidelines with Brooks Robinson, and we just started talking a little bit. And Boog was one of those kind of guys. Obviously, he stood out. He was a big, imposing guy, just one of the nicest people you ever want to talk to. I asked him about Earl Weaver. And it was a funny day because, he talked about how cranky Earl could get and how, you just kind of have to brush him off a lot of the times. And he kind of made fun of Earl a little bit and everything, but in a nice sort of way.
Right.
They knew they had a dominant ball club. When you came in there, they were all just, as nice as pie to you. And then they got in the batter's box and beat your brains out. But, and he was just always that way. And every time I had an opportunity to talk to Boog, which really wasn't very much. I love talking to this guy because he was a true professional. The Orioles just had Brooks Robinson, Boog Powell. There was so many people that you could actually just talk to. But at game time, it's an entirely different animal. Those guys were serious about what they did. And I'll tell you something, people don't realize how important Boog Powell and Brooks Robinson worked in that ball club.
Yeah.
Boog put up huge numbers. I still think to this day, this guy should be a Hall of Famer. I don't know how the heck this couldn't have happened. But, he put up numbers. I think, what year was it that he was MVP of the American League?
That was 1970, I believe.
Yeah, it was. And you talk about what he did. He was a hell of a defensive player at the same time.
Rick, not to interrupt you, but my question was, you didn't play on the same team. Where did you end up spending the time together? Was it at Oriole Fantasy Camp when that started taking place, or was it?
Well, it could have been. I guess we did have more time to spend together. Boog was around the stories. He had fantastic stories on and off the field, and it was always fun to listen to him. We never did get to play together or hang out together. Can you imagine what life would have been like in baseball with him and I on the same team? That would have been a whole lot of fun.
Now I looked it up before we went on the air. I thought you guys had something very interesting. I thought you guys had something else in common with one another, in that the last manager you played for was Lasorda, but you didn't. He wasn't your last manager, Dempsey. No. You went to play in Milwaukee, and then you came back and played in Baltimore under Johnny Oates. Booger, I was just asking Rick, and maybe you can refresh his memory a little bit better. Where did you two, because you didn't play on the same team, where did your friendship really develop?
It's kind of hard to remember other than maybe the Oriole fantasy camp down
Yeah.
in Minnesota. I mean, our paths crossed, but I knew who Rick Dempsey was. You know, the year that he did the Bambino thing, running around the bases and all in the head first slide into home. I was upset because I could have done the same thing without putting a pillow in my shirt. I mean, I could have been there and done that. I wish I would have thought about that. I just thought that was the greatest thing. And I know it's been played and it's been done a million times, but that's Dimper. That's what you get right there. And it was a lot of fun, a professional that understands how to play the game.
Okay,
Thank
well
you.
said. It sounds like because it was at fantasy camp, that alcohol might have had something to do with the fact that your memory
Nah.
isn't that great about
We spent years together one night.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Ross, take over. Ask a couple
No,
questions, Ross.
well, Dipper, I played with both of you guys. Booger, and you talked about you and Booger playing together. I remember one night in Boston, my first year with the Orioles. We had a few libations, and I wasn't moving around real well, and Booger threw me over his shoulder and carried me back to the Sheridan, I think it was. So that was it's good to have somebody that big that if something happens, you can be taken
Sometimes
care of.
do what you have to do, and you weren't the first. And
No.
Booger, tell the story about when you went out drinking with Steve Dalkowski.
Oh God.
Well, yeah, but that was in Phoenix, Arizona, and we were out there in the instructional league, and Earl Weaver was the manager, and Cal Ripken was his assistant, and Steve Dalkowski, who was a pretty hard throwing left-hander for the Orioles back in those days, and I were coming in at like 4:00 in the morning, and there were two entries. And here's Cal and Earl Weaver coming in one entrance, and me and Dalco I got Dalco on my shoulder.
Right, because he
And I
passed
saw-
out. He passed out.
No, but I saw Earl and I saw Rip, and I just threw Dalco in the bushes, and then they went to bed, and it turned out that I had thrown Dalco in a rose bush, and it tore him up. I mean, he was bleeding everywhere. So I took him up and cleaned him up a little bit. He was staying with a guy named Ray Youngdahl. And I said, Ray, you got to clean him up because he's pitching today. He's pitching today. And it was probably one of the best games he ever pitched. He threw like a one-hitter and threw strike after strike after strike. He was incredible.
That's
What a
what
great
they
He
should
owes
do
it all
the
to you,
time.
Boog.
He owes it all to you. Yeah.
Well, I couldn't keep the pace up.
Oh God. Hey guys, let me ask you a
Once
question.
in a while.
The Oriole Hall of Fame inductions are coming up this weekend, and I know both of you guys are in it. What is that? What is that experience like? Is that tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I don't know about Demper, but I don't have a chance at the other one. And it's a wonderful thing to be in the Oriole Hall of Fame. And when you look who's in the Oriole Hall of Fame, you can certainly be very proud that
Right.
you made. And I think I was like the third one. I think Frank and Brooks, and then I came along, or Dave McNally or something. And, that's when they started it. And I was very honored and very thrilled.
Dipper?
Well, it's pretty much the same here. I never expected to even remotely come close to the Hall of Fame, the regular Hall of Fame. But, to be voted into the Hall of Fame there in Baltimore with all of the great players, it was quite an honor too, because all of those that went into MLB's Hall of Fame were shoo-in. But somebody like myself, I wasn't the hitter I should have been at the major league level until it came to playoff and World Series. Then for some reason, things came together. But outside of that, I was very satisfied with being with the Orioles Hall of Fame, and at least it doesn't matter to me that everyone around the world knows me from baseball as a Hall of Famer. That doesn't really matter. I have all the people and the way they have treated me in Baltimore. It was quite an honor, like Boog says. I went through the process. I think after 5 years, your name goes up to see if writers wanted to try to vote you into the Hall of Fame. I got one vote. One vote. I sent that guy a $250 check for the best dinner he ever had in New York. Thank you very much.
I got five. I got 5 votes.
You got 5 votes. Wow.
Wow. You guys are amazing.
That's a travesty, though, that Boog only got votes, because you look at the numbers that guy put up and what he did offensive and defensively. A lot of people just overlooked that. Eddie Murray comes along and hits, over 500 home runs. And he was a very good defensive player, too, at the same time. But both of those guys certainly deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. The numbers were there. The winning was there. Everything that you look for in a player was there with both of those guys.
Hey, Demper, I've heard you talk about it before, but for the purposes of this broadcast, when you were traded to the Orioles, a lot of people forget the first team you played for was the Minnesota Twins. But then you got to the Yankees and you were kind of a backup to Thurman, I believe. And now you get traded to the Orioles. You were pretty crushed by being traded, weren't you?
You bond with a club like I did with the New York Yankees. And at the same time, I didn't even realize great job I was doing for the Orioles being a Yankee. I don't know. Let me slip a story in there while we're doing this. What was it? The year 1970, let me see, 74 or so, you guys ended up winning the division on the last series of the season. Do you remember that? Well, what happened? We were in Cleveland. We won a 3-game set in Cleveland, and we're going to the last series of the season tied with the Baltimore Orioles for first place. I got in a fight with Bill Sudeikis, who stabbed me in the chest with a fork on an airplane flight. Thurman Munson egged him on so much, and Bobby Mercer, that they kept telling him he was a third-string catcher, and he got mad at me. So I came back to my seat and took my sandwich, took a big bite out of it, threw it back down on the table, and took the fork. In those days, they had all the knives, forks, and everything, the regular stuff that they carried on planes. And he stuck me in the chest. So I got a fork sticking in my sternum, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? So they got Sudeikis under control, and then he just badgered the hell out of me all the way to the Pfister Hotel in Milwaukee. And then on the bus, he just embarrassed the living hell out of me. So I knew I was going to fight the guy. So I finally ran off the bus, and he was screaming at me that I was chicken shit, So I threw my luggage off to the side in the lobby of the Hotel Pfister. When he walked up to me, Bobby Mercer walked up to me at the same time and said, "Rick, let it go. Big cherries. We're tied with the Orioles, blah, blah, blah." And as soon as he said that, Bill Sudeikis grabbed my left arm and swung me around. He says, "Well, what's it going to be? Street fighting or boxing gloves?" I hit him 3 times and knocked him out cold. And then I hit Dave Hagan, my poor roommate, and he fell across the table. And you remember a guy named Nick Williams? He hit me like a linebacker coming in, for a 5-yard loss, and I uppercut him and hit him. I hit everybody because I was so scared Bill was going to get up and break me in 2. He was a big guy, not like as big as Boog, but he was 6'3", 240, and my God. So I broke Bobby Mercer's finger and he couldn't play. And then we won the first game. But the second game, a ball falls into right center field that Mercer would have caught. Lou Piniella couldn't come close to catching it. He was playing right field that night. And George Steinbrenner was not too happy with me when we got back. So that's another story. But
That's a great
I
story.
helped the Orioles win when I wasn't at Oriole.
But when you got traded to Baltimore, that first night, you were pretty devastated arriving in
I
Baltimore.
was, because I wanted a ring. I didn't care who I got it with. I just wanted a ring, and a New York Yankee ring. You knew that was going to be special. And being Thurman Munson's backup, Thurman was just one of the best players I ever met in the game. And he was somebody to learn from and somebody to watch. His approach to the game was incredible. He was such a competitor, so I didn't mind being a backup catcher for him and learning the game of baseball. But and that's why when all of a sudden I got traded to the Baltimore Orioles. We were 12 games in second place. And just not too happy about that, especially I joined the ball club in Chicago and I didn't play for the whole first road trip. And I think it was 9 or 10 games. We went from there to Chicago
Who
to
were you?
Minnesota.
Who were you behind at the time? Etchebarren?
Um,
No, it wasn't
Dave-
Etchebarren.
oh,
It was
Dave Duncan was there.
Dave
Elrod,
Duncan. That's right. Yep. And Elrod.
the guy that was
He
catching
was
the
Trade
balls.
for
Earl said, "I'll get you in there when I can," but
Yeah.
there the whole first road trip, and I never got in the hat, never sniffed a game. And so I came back to Baltimore one of those beautiful nights when we all got in like at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It's still 92% humidity and about 93 degrees. And they dropped us off at the what was the name of that hotel at the 695 in York Road? What was it?
Cross Keys. Cross
Yeah.
Keys.
Oh, not Cross Keys.
No,
They had the freeway
I-
there.
like
Like a Holiday Inn or something.
Yeah, Holiday Inn, I think, up there.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we didn't have rollers on our suitcases. And I had just unpacked it, brought everything to Baltimore with me. So I had 2 regular suitcases, a hanging bag, and 2 other bags. And I go to the front desk, they give me a key, and I walk across the parking lot and walk upstairs into the hall, put the key in the door, turn, and it didn't work. And I was so pissed. I went to the end of the hall and I threw my suitcase in the parking lot down there, and I sat on the top step and I was crying like a baby. Lord, is this what you brought me to? And it was so hot and humid and ugly. The next day we played Kansas City, start with the Orioles. And not the only thing I did in that ball game, I threw out 3 Kansas City guys, Amos Otis, George Brett, and one other guy. I can't remember who it was right now, but Billy Wilson. And from that point on, I got the majority of the catching the rest of my career with the Orioles.
Ross, go ahead.
Hey, both of you guys, I want to ask, because I know a lot of people want to know, what are you guys doing now? You come back to Baltimore periodically. Booger, you got the barbecue place at the stadium. Dipper,
Right.
you got the place there. What's going on in you guys' lives right now?
Well, it's pretty non-eventful in my life. I'm sitting down here in Key West. My family was just here all last week. We had the first 2 days of the lobster dive season.
That's right.
And
You told us
we
about
got-
that.
well, we got our limit. You can get 6 lobster per person per day. So we had 6 people on the boat the first day, and we got 36. So the second day we had 8 people, so we got 48. And we got, and then we come home and we got to try to figure out, what are we going to do with these lobster?
I got a good idea.
Yeah. So anyway, we're doing that. And those are like 2 special days that they have before the regular lobster season opens up, which is this Friday. It opens up this Friday for the year, and we'll do it again.
How long is it open? How long does it go?
It'll be until April. I think April.
I'm just checking to see when we can come down and do this.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of fun. JW and my son and I used to do this together, but I'm too damn old to do that now. So I sit in the boat and I drive the boat, and I've got a Miller Lite in one hand and a steering wheel in the other, and I'm doing well.
I'm with you. I can do that with you.
Now, when you got like
Yeah.
75, when you got like 75 lobsters in 2 days, Do you freeze a lot of them?
Yeah, no, you come home and then I will dispatch their tail
Okay.
usually, and then you put them all in some salt water, let them sit there for a little while. The salt water kind of disperses the blood out of them and all of that. It's kind of a little gory, but
Yeah.
you know,
Like that. Yeah.
yeah,
But how
in
many
the
do
end, you put 4 lobsters in one bag, and
Right.
it seems like, you know, for 2 people, 4 lobsters is just about right.
Okay.
So, and we
Okay.
really part of our life for the last 40 years.
Now, Booger, I know I've asked you this once before. I know you always have liked to fish for fun and to get something to eat that's fun, like crabbing and, you fished
Yeah.
you fished one time, didn't you, with the late great Ted Williams, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yes,
And
I did. And
and
Ralph
and,
Howe,
and
Ted
Ralph Howe.
Williams together. Yeah, we opened up the Miami Met fishing tournament in Almirada, and Ted is, I mean, unbelievably serious about his fishing.
Yeah.
And the wind was blowing about 30 miles an hour, and we all went out together. And at the end of the day, we had like a little side bet. Mr. Williams, I had like a little side thing going, and I caught a 16-pound mutton snapper, which is it's a pretty nice fish.
Right.
Anyway, he didn't catch anything.
He didn't
So
catch
I
anything.
smoked it.
You outfit
And
you
Ralph
outfished-
didn't anything either. So, and it was not a very good day, but we had a good time, and I enjoyed being around Ted. And we, you know, after 20 years after I played ball, I'm still talking to him about hitting, and
Right.
he's talking about hitting, and he knows more about action than anybody ever knew about hitting.
he
Dipper,
was- go ahead.
tell us what you're doing now, buddy.
Yeah, well, I got to tell. I saw one of those mutton snappers one time. It was a bar down in Baltimore when the first time we came in to play the Orioles. That's a scary thing, Boog. You got to be careful with those mutton snappers.
Yep.
Me right now, I'm not doing a darn thing. I'd say what, a year and a half ago, I had a pretty good gig with Masson, but
Right.
things turned around and they decided, I don't know, maybe I was making too much money, who knows, but that was that. I haven't heard a word out of any of them since in a year and a half. So I dive a little bit, but it's in my swimming pool to get the grasshoppers off the bottom so that they don't clog up the sweep. Do that a couple of times a day.
You're really busy, right?
Unclog the azalea leaves, you know, that kind of thing.
So you're basically going nuts out there, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm waiting to hear even when we're going to do one of those ambassador show ups at the ballpark. I haven't gotten a call about that in a year and a half. So whatever, you know. So,
Hey,
who
Demper,
knows?
Demper, you're out there in LA. Are you in the area where you can watch the Dodgers or you can't watch them?
690 on DirecTV cable. The Orioles are on 640 or 641, depending if the Nationals are on there.
And
whatever.
how about the Angels? Are you watching much of them?
Yeah, I see the Dodgers.
What's your opinion of Shohei Ohtani?
Well, I'll tell you what, he's incredible and not much of a stride at all. He just kind of hangs back there, but massively strong, you know, that lankiness to his swing. Bat speed is incredible.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, he's the one guy. I mean, it's just a ball off the label and still hit it 15, 20 rows deep, you know. I think Major League Baseball is doing everything they possibly can, tightening up the baseball, shortening the dimensions of the field, making, you know, any kind of a vacuum with the wind that comes in the stadium. They'll find some way to block that to help them hit the balls up. But this guy is a super talent. I mean, the reincarnation of Babe Ruth, being able to hit home runs like he's doing and being able to pitch at the same time. He's an amazement to me. I love watching him hit, man. But with that kind of swing, you have to keep the ball down. Anything up, he didn't even have to hit it good. It's out of the ball.
Booger, have you caught him at all on television? Shohei Ohtani?
Yeah. Yeah, I watched the All-Star game and I watched the home run hitting contest, and I watched him, and his, like Dumper said, he's got a real short swing. He's got no wasted motion. It's the Ted Williams dream swing is what it is. I mean, it's like directly to the ball, bang, without any wasted motion. If you can figure out a way to do that, then you're going to be something special. And he is something special. I could work with him on his base stealing maybe a little.
Hey, Billy Ripken mentioned something. And seriously, I watch a lot of baseball because I'm a fantasy baseball player. So I'm always trying to check on how my teams are doing. That team, the Angels, has without a doubt one of the worst bullpens I have ever seen. They are god awful. Billy Ripken, before the season one day, said they're using Ohtani wrong by starting him. What they should be doing is bringing him in games, and nothing would prevent them from bringing him in a couple different times during a game if they played him out in the field. Rick, what do you think of that? You were a manager, an aspiring manager. What do you think about that strategy? Or is it too difficult for him to go from playing in the field to come in and get 2 hitters, then go back in the field and come back again?
I don't know what his work ethic is. I think that has a lot to do with being able to play a player like that. He's got to be in excellent condition.
Yeah.
And especially the arm, you'd have to keep an eye on it. But yeah, it would be great being able to bring him in, face certain hitters, and put him back at first base or DH or whatever they would do, and then bring him back in later in the ball game. But I think from the magic that goes along with him, having him as a starter, letting people see what it must have been like to have a real Babe Ruth out on the field. This guy is certainly that. One of the most interesting people in the game today. He brings a lot of credibility to Major League Baseball. But I don't know, Stan, it's not a bad idea. The way that they do people nowadays, they have guys coming out of the bullpen, pitching the first 2-3 innings of a game, and then a starter will get to the 5th inning, but usually no trouble after that. They get more decisions, but they certainly have changed the way that they use every pitcher on a ball club. And, Ohtani, I think you just give him one job to do it and let him go ahead and do it, and don't try to get too tricky with him.
All right. Hey guys, I want to ask you something. We had Jim Palmer on last week, and it dawned on me, I have never really asked a lot of ex-Orioles, about what was so special about Jim Palmer. Boog, I'm going to start you off on that. When did you meet Cakes initially? Were you guys friendly early on? And when did you realize he was quite as special as he is?
Oh, yeah. I think the year was 65. He came up in a game against the White Sox in Moose Scourin, and he tried to throw some cheese by Moose up, and he ricocheted one off the speakers. And then I went up to him, I said, "Welcome to the leagues." Hey, that was nice. And then but as I watched him and I watched the way that he worked, I watched the way that he did. One day we're in Yankee Stadium and he says, "I don't think I can pitch today." And I said, "Why not?" He says, "Oh man, my elbow's killing me." I said, "Get out there and just fake it." I said, I'll hit a 2-run homer and you'll pitch a 1-hitter. Guess what happened? I hit a 2-run homer. He pitches a 1-hitter. I said, "See?" He said, "But I didn't have anything." And I said, "Well, that's the mark of pitcher, just to go out there and know why with what you had." RG knows that well, right, RG?
I had nothing a lot of times. Dipper
No,
will
but
tell you that. He knows that.
Jimmy was a great pitcher, and I've often said that if I had one game to win and I had to pick my pitcher for the day, it would be Jim Palmer.
What does it do for a team? Rick, I'll bring you into the discussion of Palmer. What does it do for a team? Now, you had some other good pitchers on that staff in Flanagan, McGregor, and Dennis, and, but what does it do that you've got that ace? It must be an incredible de-stressor for every player on the field.
Yeah, it takes a lot of pressure off of every player out there on the field. When you've got a guy that's motivated to win, as Jim Palmer is, and I look at another guy who paralleled him. Late in my career, I had Oral Hershiser in 1988, who was even for one season might have been more dominant than Jim Palmer during the course of a year.
Was that the season that Hershiser had the consecutive inning streak?
Yes, 59 consecutive scoreless innings. It'll never be matched again. But to watch Jim Palmer, and I'll never forget when he pulled me off to the side to catch my first game with him in Baltimore, and he said, "Listen, whenever I'm behind in the count, I'm going to make it easy for you. All the fastball, sit down and away, and I want your glove an inch off the outfield corner." And I swear this guy hit the bucket 9 out of 10 times. I could have closed my eyes and knew it was going to be right there. But he proved to me by watching his approach to the game that this is what every pitcher needed. His conditioning was unmatchable. That 20 line to lines every single day, except that before the day he pitched. And his focus on the game during the game, he watched every pitch that every pitcher threw up there to every hitter. And he knew exactly how to approach every hitter. There was one guy I go back to that I just couldn't seem to figure him out, was Bruce Bockley, with all the elbows and the knees going everywhere before he even got set. And he hit so many lines, and I figure, how come this guy adjusts to every combination? I let him, and I talked to Jim, and Jim said, "Listen, just slider down and in." Soon as I did that, boom, 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 we get him out 3 straight times in a row. From then on, he had a steady diet of sliders down and in. The one pitch he could not hit. You've got to keep it down in the strike zone, though. But Palmer is a student of the game.
Yeah.
Watch these kids pitch now at the major league level, and they think they're good. And I think they have no clue. Here is a guy, 25 consecutive game, 9-inning ball games in a row, game wins in one season, and all of the entire American and National League couldn't match him. And that tells you something about his approach to the game. And we've lost that kind of approach in Major League Baseball right now. These kids don't understand it. If they had to work the way Palmer worked, I think they'd all quit the game because they were picking on him. My God, there was no stone left unturned with Jim Palmer. And every time I needed some help, I would just talk to Jim. He always had a very good idea of how to approach all hitters. And I feel like right now I could still read hitters as good as Jim reads them and has always read them. Now,
Hey, Demper, you just used the word stone. You left no stone unturned. It just dawned on me. You caught Hershiser in the 88 season. You caught Palmer throughout his career. For one season, was anybody as dominant as Steve Stone in 1980?
Well, he got on a pretty good roll. And of course, Palmer was dominant, but it's somewhere along the lane. You have to be a little bit lucky, to win 25 games. But Stone, I love talking about him because he'll admit it. You got to get him on your show sometime. And they say, in the very first game that he started tonight, we went into the 9th inning, the top of the 9th inning in Baltimore, and he had a 1-run lead. He had 2 strikes and no balls on the hitter. And I called for a curveball in the dirt. And he walked around the mound. He pulled his pants up to the left and the right.
I could see.
And I figured there was something. You could see him do that, right? He called me to the mound. And I said, "Steve, what's the matter?" He goes, "Listen, you're calling for a curveball in the dirt. And I don't want to see this guy score at third base. And I looked at him with the most shocked look on my face. I said, "Are you kidding me? You think you're ever going to throw your curveball by me? I swear on a stack of Bibles, it will never, ever, ever get by me. Throw this curveball, he'll swing at it, and you'll be out of this inning with a win. Threw the curveball in the dirt, he swung at it, I blocked it, the guy out at first base, game over. He goes on to win 25 games. But it's a pitch that no pitcher in the game of baseball today ever uses anymore.
Yeah.
They will not throw the curveball in the dirt. These yahoos that are catching these ball games now, they don't want to block a ball.
No.
They can't block a ball.
They're so busy.
That's a weapon that you need to use in the game today.
They'll block it by pancaking it.
Yeah, well, and if they slap it down, a la Molina, okay, good luck. I mean, it'll happen once in a while. You can short hop a ball and slap it out in front, but overall, you're going to miss a lot of balls, and that's what our guys do, and a lot of guys throughout Major League Baseball.
Booger, we talked about Palmer. Somebody that's kind of been forgotten by some is Dave McNally, who was probably, along with Mussina, slightly below Palmer in terms of what they are. Your thoughts on Dave McNally, a longtime teammate?
Yeah, the first time that I saw Dave we were in Arizona. We were in an instructional league, and the Orioles had just signed him, and they had this kid that they said he had a pretty good curveball. And he came down there, and I looked at this curveball. This kid was throwing an automatic lock. And we became good friends, and we lived close to each other in Baltimore. We had a row house. He was I was 1503. He was 1507 or something like that. And we became very close friends. Every day before every game that he pitched, we used to make something called jardinere. And we would take jalapenos and chop up with some celery and some garlic. And we would let it sit in vinegar for a couple of days. Then we'd pour the vinegar off. And then we would put some olive oil on there. And when Dave pitched, we would sit with a box of crackers and have some crackers and cheese and jardinere on these crackers. And that was a regular thing for us. And, he did okay. I'm still jealous about him hitting a grand slam in the I wanted to hit a grand slam in the World Series. Pitchers don't deserve to hit a grand slam in the World Series, but I loved him dearly. I miss him. He's a good friend. I still talk to his wife, Jeannie, occasionally. And
does she still live out in Dakota, in one of the Dakotas?
Montana.
Billings, Montana.
Billings,
That's right.
Montana,
yeah.
That's right.
Booger, Cuellar when I first got to Baltimore, Cuellar, when it was cold, we would go inside and eat crackers and cheese and hot peppers. Is that the same thing? That's
it. Yeah, that's the jardinere.
I mean, talk about Cuellar. Cuellar was a mentor to me. I loved him dearly. He was just a super guy, but I mean, I don't think he gets the recognition that he deserves, because he was just, he was fun to watch.
He was my idol. I loved to play behind him, and he used to make people look so funny with that screwball. And the guys that were maybe 1 mile an hour.
Yeah.
And I'd laugh, and at first base I'd be cracking up, and he couldn't look at me. He would look at me because and then he would have to turn his back to home plate and look out at center field, and then he'd turn around, and then he was okay.
Yeah.
And everybody, when Miguel started a game, he would give up 2 or 3 runs in the first couple of innings. And everybody said, well, he doesn't have it tonight. That's all you're getting.
Yeah, that's
all you're getting. No, we were going to get him. We were going to get him some, and I think he was the first one to get to 20 wins when we had the 4 20-game winners in 71. which is another amazing, just unbelievable story.
That'll never happen again.
Nope.
Demper, you ever hit against Cuellar, Demper?
No, never did.
Was he in
Real-
Baltimore when you got there, Dipper?
Yes, he was for a short time.
Okay, so you caught him out there. All right.
Oh, yeah, I caught him. He and Fernando Valenzuela were the only two screwballs I ever saw.
You know,
Both of
this,
them were pretty good at it.
you know, this thing that's going on right now with Matt Harvey. Do you know that he became the fourth Oriole pitcher to ever throw at least 6 innings of shutout ball in 3 straight games, and the others to do it were Palmer, Valenzuela, and Kevin Gausman. And a bunch of people had forgotten Valenzuela. Valenzuela had this one little stretch when he was an Oriole for about 10 or 12 games where he was really good. But before that 10 or 12 games and after it, he reverted back to what he had become. Did you catch him much, Denver?
Yeah, I caught him 1988. And he wasn't a regular starter all the time, but he came in and pitched pretty well, probably 8, 9, 10 ball games. He had that thing just like Yard did. He could lay it out there, it looked so nice and fat, and by the time it got to me, it was short hopping me in the dirt. He had tremendous movement on that ball.
Guys, I think we've exhausted every possible question we've got for you.
Well, we've exhausted possible answer we
I
have
thought-
for
I thought you guys would enjoy seeing each other, and
I did.
yeah, I figured you would, and I know Booger, you miss being in Baltimore as well. So we really appreciate your spending some time with us. Oriole game on Masson is about 5 minutes away. What do you think? Who's going to win this whole thing this year? Rick?
Well, I'll tell you what, if San Diego can put a little surge on it, they've got the defense and the offensive ball club to make it happen. If they're pitching and they've got enough guys in their starting rotation, they've got a shot to win. San Francisco somehow is leading that division. And so they've got some experienced guys there helping them out. National League, I definitely take San Diego. I think they'll make it to the playoffs. And if they do, they're that kind of team that can really be dominant if everything falls in place for them.
Booger, are you following it close enough to pick who you like?
probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, being very honest with you, you know, I do watch the Oriole games.
Yep.
And I get Masson down in Key West, and I watch the games on Masson down here, and you know, I'm pretty impressed with some of the Oriole players. They got a couple of real players.
I bet you like Mountcastle, don't you? So you got a shot to
Like
be pretty good?
Mountcastle a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of talent. He started the season off that big uppercut move, and it kind of put him behind the 8 ball for a while. But he's slowly trying to figure it out. Not your kind of power where all you gotta do is make contact. It's gone.
Well, I think, and not that you're paying for my what I think, but I think the Los Angeles Dodgers, with that trade they made, I don't know what the Washington Nationals were thinking, giving up, unless they've got a secret deal, Mike Rizzo and Scherzer, that he's coming back there. I don't know what he was thinking, giving Turner in that deal. So I think Scherzer though is going to really take them over the top. So, guys, we really appreciate it. Ross, we appreciate you every Monday night, and
Yes, sir.
I love
Thanks,
you guys.
for being with us.
We appreciate it. Great
Good to
deal.
Very welcome. Let's do it again.
All right.
Take care, Boog.
Pleasure. All right, Bubba. Love
Take care.
All right. And before I walk
Good
out,
hit right.
All right. Before I walk out, I got to tell you the Press Box Live has been brought to you by C3 American Exteriors. You'll have no greater expense in your home than fixing or replacing your roof. C3 American Exteriors are the people you need to talk to. C3America.com is their website to get a brand new roof for just the cost of your insurance deductible. I know these people and I like them and trust them. For Rick Dempsey, Boog Powell, Ross Grimsley, I'm Stan the Fan, and we'll see you down the road. See you Wednesday night when Gary Stein, Dempsey's showing a nipple. That's great. The ratings are just going to go through the roof. Boog, can you show a nipple too? Can you show one more nipple, Boog? Anyway,
What do you want me to?
show one more nipple. We got one nipple we saw.
Don't do it, Boog.
All right.
That's
Don't
a
do it,
nipple
Boog.
program.
All right.
Well, there would be a song called "Put a Nipple on My Bottle, Bartender." That's Hank Williams Jr. Is that the kind of bottle? Is that the kind of nipple?
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Guys, thank you very much for being with us. All right.
All
Love
right.
you guys. All right.
Take care. See y'all later.
See you Wednesday night. Gary Stein and I will have Aaron Wilson, formerly of the Carroll County Times and the Baltimore Sun, join us to talk about the National Football League. Good night, everybody. Stay tuned for Oriole baseball in Matson.